Another season in the books, and we have a new tradition for this one, and that is every time there's a finale episode, I get sick the next day. So, which also means that every time a Canadian winner, we've got a Canadian winner, I got sick the next day. So
Those
I'm
Canadians
hoping,
are making you sick, huh?
I'm hoping that we never have a Canadian winner again.
Is that what you're saying? You're sick of the Canadians?
Yeah. Last time I was COVID. This time it's just a minor cold. But besides that, we're here to recap the finale episode. We're joined by our good friend Peridiam, and an honorary Survivor buff at this point.
I got a bunch of Survivor buffs. I keep the latest season's buffs. Speaking of buffs, on my desk in front of me. So I literally have all of them.
Oh,
the whole
wow.
season's buffs, all 4 of them in front of me right now. They've just been sitting here for months collecting cat hair. But yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. Gideon, did your merge buff come yet?
My merge buff it hasn't come yet. I think it's gonna come like tomorrow or the next day. So I'm looking forward to getting that. I just got the merge buff. I didn't go overkill this season. Last season I got all of them. This season I was like, probably not. They just I would, but they remind me too much of the 41s, and I was just like, it's like the same colors. I don't really want to do it.
Yeah, I would say like the more unique ones, like Palau with like the brown buff, like that's a good one to have because it's like there's literally no other brown buff in Survivor history.
Yeah.
I have that. My dad randomly bought that buff without knowing anything about Survivor. He just knows that I like Survivor, so he just decided it's like I just bought a buff, and I'm like, "What'd you get?" I'm like, "Wow, that's like an interesting pick. You got like the only of that color in the history. I think it's the most unique one in the history of the show."
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
No.
What other ones do you have?
What other ones do I have?
Yeah.
I got a whole bunch of them over there. They're not. I don't know if you can see them. Right there.
Oh,
they're all stacked on top of each other.
Okay.
And a bit of a rainbow. I've got like all of Winners at War. That's when I really went into it. And then I got all of 41 because I was excited for it. And then I decided to keep going with all of 42. I do think I'm probably going to draw the line there. Unless I really, truly love like a 43. I'm like, I don't really use these for anything. They're not really, I'm not doing much with them. So they just leave them in the background. So I think I'm going to stop at this point. But I kind of like the 42 buffs, maybe even more than the 41 buffs. So went with that. I got a bunch. My favorite one is China merge buff. That's my favorite buff. Has a really cool logo pattern to it. Like it's got like this black and red and yellow dragon, and it's like a bit gold. It's all over.
Right.
It's like there's so many black buffs. I think there's like the most overused color, but the China merge is great.
No Canadians. Woohoo!
Yeah, I saw that. They didn't cast a single Canadian on 43. And I'm like,
they were like, all right, that's enough.
Like, is that intentional? It almost feels targeted.
The Canadians have had their fun. Let's let them go back to whatever they do in
hockey
Canada.
and maple syrup.
Yeah, hockey and maple syrup.
They don't win hockey though. If you guys follow, do you guys follow the NHL?
Yes. Yeah.
They're terrible. Like none of them win. They don't win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
They haven't won in 28
seasons. Looking good this year.
I guess so.
We'll see. I think
nothing against Canadians, but I was in Calgary a couple months ago, and my stepbrother lives there. It's cool. I like it. Very beautiful. But also apparently Todd was half Canadian. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Okay.
And I got it. I actually looked into this last night because I'm like, what is the difference between he was born in Utah, but his mom is Canadian. So does that make him he's a Canadian citizen, but he's not a Canadian national? Is that the same thing then? Would we say he was the first Canadian winner? Is that how it goes?
I feel like you got to be born or live a strong majority of your life.
But like, what if you're like a military kid and you were born there? You were there for like a month. Does that count hypothetically? Are you Canadian even though you have enough? Like
my vote's no.
Then it's okay. It's a little different.
Yeah. So
okay, yeah, I would say Erica's probably the first Canadian winner.
Right.
Todd's the first Canadian citizen, I guess.
Right. I was just about to pull up the fantasy team as I would get Gideon's.
Why do we have to? Okay, let's bring it up and then we don't have to talk about it ever again. Okay, thank you. We're done. That's it. It's over. I lost 2 seasons in a row. What a surprise! Big shocker. Okay,
Started off strong too, man. I had
know. I
I
know.
Wow,
had
you're the
Zach
final
out.
3.
Yeah, yeah. I had Zach out. I had Jackson out. I had Jenny. So I started off. I started off not looking too good, and then
We know.
and then then it evened out a bit. But yeah, Lindsay. I think we did the math. Like the only way Gideon could have won is like if
If Lindsay and Jonathan
Lindsay
didn't go out, yeah, pretty much.
is if Lindsay won and Jonathan. I think he could have been either second or third, and you would have beat me by like 1 point. You would have beat me. So close
So
one.
if Maryanne had like idled out Jonathan, that still wouldn't have worked.
No,
Right.
it wouldn't work. I was screwed either way, man. But who cares? Because like I said, I had Adam right next to me while we were watching, and I just said, hey, you know what? I just wanted a good final episode. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted was a good final episode. I don't care that I lost.
Did you get a good final episode?
In my opinion, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was
I
the
feel
best
like
of the season, but I thought it was pretty good.
yeah, I think it was like a little bit like predictable in the result, but maybe unpredictable in like the what led to the result, the end, the
Yeah.
ends, the means. Um, like I definitely did not see Mike playing his idol for Maryanne. I know
I
they
didn't see
teased it.
Mike winning an immunity challenge, so
Well, and then Romeo.
Or Romeo.
or Romeo,
Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't see either. Winning.
I feel like they gave him a lot for Romeo standard screen time pre that final immunity challenge, and I feel like part of it was that when the editors knew that when he won, it wouldn't feel as out of the blue if they would give him a little more screen time. Because I remember telling you, Gideon, I'm like, oh wow, the Romeo has some screen time this episode.
I know we did the famous Peridiam quote. Believe it or not, Romeo is in this episode. So.
Yeah. I tweet that out once a week, pretty much. Fun fact: Romeo's in the episode still. It's been a 3-hour episode, and believe it or not, Romeo is here.
Right.
He won. He won the final challenge, which seems to be not as important in modern Survivor as it used to be. I think the player getting dragged to the final 3 has been winning the last few times.
Dragged, quote unquote dragged. Like, was Tommy dragged, or did he just have a really good social game?
I mean,
was
that's the way
Maryanne
it's
dragged,
called.
Or did she just have a really good social
It's
game?
funny because it seemed to be getting called the nomenclature of the community are calling it the GOAT position, which to be fair, it isn't, because it's not really the same thing as an actual Survivor GOAT, as they say.
Right.
And certainly not the greatest of all time. But yeah, it seems like getting taken there has currently been the way to go. And I don't even know if they're really getting credit for getting taken so much as they're just like, I don't remember. I think Tommy might have brought that up when he won. I don't remember if Erica didn't need to bring that up, being like, hey, I got taken and I'm still like the front runner. Maryanne, I don't think really brought that up at all, because it was more of against Jonathan and Mike than it was, I think. Although Romeo did say, I listened to a postseason, and he said he strongly considered taking, I think, Jonathan or something.
That would have been smart. Yeah. That would have been so smart for Romeo to take Jonathan, have Mike pick Maryanne at fire.
But he was worried.
If that happens.
Well, he was worried that Mike might be the front runner at that. He was worried Mike was the front runner, and that Mike getting that hero moment to win the fire. That's such like Tony had that. It makes it look even more impressive at the very end. Whereas like Xander was like, what if I just take the person who's the front runner? That way they don't get that moment. So I can sort of like preemptively like end their, like, this is it. There's no more on her resume. Erica can't win fire, but I don't think that's Romeo's thought process so much with Maryanne, because I don't think he viewed Maryanne as the front runner.
Do you guys think Romeo coming in after winning final immunity before the fire making challenge? Do you guys think Romeo thought he had a chance to win?
I don't think so. I think he's like, maybe there's an outside shot. Like, you never know for sure.
I think he had an outside shot.
I feel like I almost want to say like what you were probably hinting at, Gideon, is like if he has Mike and Jonathan with him in the final 3,
right?
It might be like if there's any anti-Mike or Jonathan sentiment, because they're so connected and they're so seen as like this big guy duo, it's possible you could be like, look, I am the alternative. I am the guy that is not. You vote for Jonathan and vote for Mike and vice versa. You don't want to vote for Jonathan or Mike. Hello, and he did a pretty good job of talking. I thought last night, his final tribal.
It wasn't terrible.
It was pretty good for a player that looked like they had no shot, like the Sherrys of Survivor, or whoever. Like these players that go in, you expect them to get 0 votes. He got 0 votes, but I honestly didn't feel like he walked away with no final tribal. I felt like he did a much better job. One of the better ones, I think.
And if he does that, what you just talked about, Peridiam, he's in that like Sandra heroes versus villains position. Yeah. Like in that position, like, okay, like you don't want to vote for Russell or Poverty, so hey, it's me, vote for me. And I also think the complete Romeo arc, if he does have any chance of winning, for him to have the best chance of winning would probably be him taking off the necklace. But I mean, hey, that's a bunch
taking
of
off the necklace and going against what, like who? Maryanne?
I think going against Maryanne. I think going against Maryanne, taking off the necklace and going against Maryanne, because then Romeo says, I have a move. So now not only is he against Mike and Jonathan,
as late in the game
who are not likable, but he also now has a move that he can brag about that he made on his own.
It's an interesting thing because it's like if he's trying to get to the final 3 in this situation with the 2 big guys anyway, maybe you get there in a blaze of glory as opposed to just like taking Jonathan. And then it's like you took Jonathan, like he's this big guy, and like you put Mike against Mary, and like Mike would have probably beaten all 3 of them, it looks like, based on what we saw. So
sure. That was a blowout.
I think it was one of the biggest blowouts so far from 35 onward.
Has anyone ever been beaten that bad in Fire than Jonathan? Because that was a shock to me.
I mean, I will say like Stephanie and Bobby Johns wasn't very. It took like 2 seconds. Like Stephanie crushed him, but that was like one of the first ones.
Yeah,
so,
right.
I think other than that,
I completely forgot about that one because I was only thinking about the final fire making challenge. But they did make fire,
which was interesting because Jonathan had this whole thing about being so good. He's like, I see what Mike's doing here. He's like, I'm not gonna fall for this. Like, I'm going in there and I'm gonna crush him. I don't mind if he's like, dude, if Romeo is going to give you an out, you got to take it. And he's like, yeah, you just don't want me to beat you. And then he ended up getting crushed.
Right.
He was too conservative. He was too conservative with how he was building the fire.
Was that it? I didn't really know what he did wrong because he seemed to do it really well on the beach. So I was like, what does he miss? What did he do wrong that Mike did so incredibly well?
Took him a while to get the spark, and then when he did get the spark, then he's just building this little itty-bitty teepee while Mike, I mean, it doesn't always work. Yeah, I was worried sitting next to Adam. I was like, oh, he's smothering the fire with the sticks. Oh, my gosh. Because that mistake has happened before. They just throw a bunch of sticks on it, and it just burns out. Right. And that's what I thought Mike was going to do, but it didn't, and he knew what he was doing, I guess. But, I mean, Jonathan was trying to get too much of a structure, and if it was a let's see which fire will last the longest challenge, then Jonathan would have won. But that's not what it was. Was
that the biggest fire we've ever seen? Like in a fire-making challenge? Because
it was blazing. That thing was blazing.
Yeah. They usually get pretty big. I'm usually like, oh, wow. And then I like how they like just leave it. And it's like raging on the side, and they're all just like, let's talk now. I'm like, you're gonna put the fire out? Like, what's going on? I guess it'll just kill itself.
What's it gonna do?
Yeah.
Mike's structure was really bad, so it probably burned itself out. But it got the job done.
I always wondered, that was like a side note, I've always wondered, are they allowed to like pick up their kindling and just hold it below the string? Because I think they did that in...
I don't think so.
I mean, I feel like the answer is no, but they
just light the, just put the sparks on the, just do it right there.
How about, can they just chop the string with their machete? I mean, that'd
be a challenge hack.
Challenge hacks 9.0.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. I know they did that in, I don't think it was Australia, but it was some season I was watching with a fire making from a tie. And they literally just like made a blaze and just picked it up, and their hands were
just burning. It's like Michael scooping, but a good strategy.
Right.
That's worth burning yourself
That's
for.
Survivor 18.0 right there.
Yeah, but no, I mean, going back to what you said, Gideon. Like, if Romeo goes against Maryanne and beats her and has just a great final trial, because I don't think Jonathan would have had a good final. I feel like his would have been pretty bad. I feel like Lindsay
probably would have dug himself into a bigger hole.
Yeah,
I don't think Jonathan stood a good. I don't think he was gonna win.
No,
I think he had less of a chance than Romeo at that point.
Oh
of the
wow,
game.
yeah, interesting.
I'll say that. I don't know if that's a hot take. Sorry if Drew's watching this, but I mean, I think Jonathan had less of a chance than Romeo at that point of the final four. Because
not in the sense that he played
a
the worst game, but in the sense of his chances of winning. Is what you're saying.
I guess. I mean, but how well you played the game should reflect your chances of winning.
I feel like I've been reading some of the post-season like exit press and all that, and it seems like most people aren't very high on Jonathan. So I wonder like to what extent that's changed over the last few months, because those are answers now, not answers then. But yeah, I did get the impression that like I do wonder what would have happened if Romeo, because Mike's performance at the final tribal is an interesting one. I see like people compare him to Coach. I've seen that a lot as of late in the last 24 hours, saying like he had this, he went in as the front runner, or all he had to do was say the right thing, a couple of the right things, and he wins. But he did. And I kind of felt like, I don't know if that's the greatest comparison. It might be for Survivor's sake, but I think it might just be its own situation, because there's not often in Survivor I have found where a person just loses it at tribal council at the final tribal. Oftentimes the winner is usually known. Like we don't know, but the jurors usually know what they're doing. It's not. I found it pretty surprising to see almost the entire jury put their hand up and say we don't know. Like we don't know for sure what we would have done.
Right. I think Mick is an example.
Nick? With David Goliath.
No, Mick.
Mick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard from Dave and Monica. They said that Natalie was more the front runner going in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I spoke to Dave.
See,
he said Mick was not the front runner.
Really?
But that's from his perspective. I know Laura Moret said the other opposite. So it's like, but I'm more inclined to believe if there's a division, then it's like maybe that person isn't the front runner, because I'm hearing from two different jurors that both Monica and Dave both said that. So I'm like, okay, I don't know, maybe not, but it's interesting. I just thought it was really interesting to see Mike. He didn't do it. It wasn't horrible, but it clearly on paper was bad because he was the front runner and he lost like 4 or 5 jury votes with his final tribal performance. So I'm like, objectively, probably one of the worst, but it didn't feel like he was doing a horrible job with some of his answers.
He definitely had some where like you could tell that he didn't give the answer that they wanted, but I think a lot of times instead of just holding their breath and saying, oh, okay, they kind of like pushed him, and then he kind of gave them the answer they wanted. He had to be pushed a little bit, so maybe it depends on the juror. Like, would they rather the answer be given right away? Did they dock points if they have to get it out of you, or if as long as it's eventually said, is that enough? Maybe it's different for every juror.
I'm not sure if Mike came into that with the advantage over Maryanne, but I definitely think that he lost jury votes with his speech.
I think it was like it wasn't even that he was lying or whatever to the jury or lying to him. I felt like it was just he was giving them the wrong impression of what he thought his game was to what they thought his game was. And it's not like your game isn't bad, Mike, but you're showing us that you're not fully aware of where we're collectively at, because we obviously think we have a better idea. And if we want you to tell us that we're right or that we have the right idea, because I'm like, we don't believe your story of like, you played a bit with honor integrity only against Roxroy. Did you lie? Like, they're like, what are you talking about? Like, you had these other, and the edit, if you rewatch the season, I think the post merge, you'll see it come out. I'm like, they're kind of, they did a decent job of justifying like how Mike he plays this game, but then he doesn't tell us that he played that game at the end. And it's very incongruous. And I think that's like a huge problem. Like
I
the
think
jury wants
Mike.
to be validated, and they want their
Mhm.
belief to be validated, and that's like if you can't figure out what the jury's thinking, that's not going to be good. Like, you know, you got to cater to the people that you're talking to, and I don't know. Also, just like don't use the word integrity or loyalty or honor.
Oh my
in
gosh!
Survivor.
I came into
Final
this game wanting to play with loyalty and
just like
integrity.
that is
Shut up!
that's like the last place you should be going. And if I know it's like a part of the show, it's a part of the people's personalities. You want to be honorable or whatever, but I'm like, there's no honor in Survivor. Like you're playing, the objective is everyone goes out and you're the winner. Like, why would you want to go on honor? Like that's not the key word to build your platform on for why they should vote for you. They need to respect you. And I'm like, the honor angle is just it's not gonna work. And integrity too. I'm like, dude, you can't, if you got to the end and like you're telling us you didn't lie and you played with full integrity, like except for this one time, I'm like, that's not going to add up. Like, cause they know more than that. Like they're not stupid. Like they know you weren't, I'm not even sure how many Survivor winners you can count that played without lying at all. I don't think there's almost any really. Maybe
Bob
Fabio? Crowley. I don't know. Bob Crowley. He lied. He created the fake idol.
Oh, yeah.
Technically.
He's just such an innocent little man, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
A fake idol is a lie. And I don't know why Romeo lied about the fake idol or played the fake idol.
That was the moment of the episode, though.
Oh my god!
Why? Why did he do that?
That was the comic relief for the finale.
There's a scene on CBS on YouTube of the after they come back from that tribal. You should watch it if you want to. Like, we just went straight to the immunity challenge, but on the YouTube channel CBS Survivor. They show like the reaction to his fake idol. It's pretty funny. They're like, what was that? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, when the episode started, he had all those like, you know, before they really dived into like gameplay or challenges, there was kind of like the normal like opening to a finale where you hear like voiceover for all the contestants, and it seemed from that Romeo thought he had a chance of winning. Maybe the producer said, "Hey, even if you don't think, just give that to us." That
sounded like a soundbite from the beginning. That sounded like a full of energy Romeo, not stealing rice Romeo. I was like, I felt like I've heard Romeo say this in a previous episode that he's gonna have the Survivor crown. I was like, I swear he said that like episode 2 or 3. And we're
or like the TR or something.
Yeah.
I do give props to Romeo. I feel like he's taken his poor edit better than most people in recent seasons have. Like if you compare him to like what Heather was last season, she like hasn't really done any. I don't think she's done any post-game interviews besides the one she's like contractually obligated to do, and hasn't really attended any Survivor events. And from what I heard, doesn't really keep up with her cast that much. Whereas Romeo was, if you follow him on Instagram, he was out with his fellow castmates for the finale viewing party, and you know
he made some entertaining TikToks. Can concur.
Yeah, he was. He was live tweeting all season long, and just even though he was, I can't imagine that was the edit he was expecting. Again, I don't think anyone expects they're going to get a bad edit. Maybe you can expect that you're not going to get like a great edit, especially if you know you don't win, like Romeo did, because they revealed the winner there on the island. But it seemed like he took it very well. It was a good sport. So props for that.
I feel like Heather's confessional, her confessional account has been super low, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Curious to compare it now just to see it. Like she ended up having 13 confessionals all season.
Wow.
And she got 4th. And like I don't have the finale, but up till the finale, Romeo had twice as many. Wow. So I'm like, you know, Romeo he was also a little bit more impactful in the pre-merge, I feel like. I always felt like one of the biggest issues I had with the season was I had no idea where like Romeo fell, and knowing now that he gets to the final 3, I'm like, what happened? Like this is, again, I'm thinking of like Sherry on Caramoan, who had like a very decent pre-merge, and then the merge hits, and it's just like they fell off a cliff.
Or even Ryan and Heroes
or Ryan to an extent, in season 35.
Yeah.
That was a big fall
That's
off.
sort of like the thing. Like if a player is looking decent but not the front runner in the pre-merge, you got to really wait to see what it looks like in the merge. And Romeo just disappeared, and I was like, "What happened here? How did he become at the bottom so quickly?" And it turns out like Drea just bonded with everyone else better, and Romeo just wasn't included. And
The
it's
way that
interesting.
the way that the edit seemed to justify that was he became like this paranoid walking chicken with his head cut off type of guy, which, like, to
Yeah,
be honest, I feel like the edit didn't really show that. I mean, like, a little bit, but not like significantly more than some other people that found themselves in the chopping block. I don't know. I feel like Romeo had, I feel like a couple people on this cast had like an interesting edit. Maybe they were trying to find like new arcs or new, try to freshen it up, which I can appreciate. Mike, I think, had an interesting edit. I mean, even Maryanne's winter edit, she went from like, a preseason, she was arguably the favorite as far as like who people thought would be like the fan favorite of the year. I feel like a lot of people were like, oh, I'm gonna love Maryanne. Then when it started, it was like, oh wow, she's super annoying. Then as it progressed more, it was like, oh, we like her, but she's probably not gonna win. And then right when Omer goes home, she was almost unanimously the winner pick. I mean, almost every single, and I asked quite a bit of people, and I feel like I maybe only got one answer with
who did you say going into the finale?
I mean,
Mike.
I said Mike just because I kind of wanted to like be different, but like if I had to like put my money on someone, I mean, you can back me up here. I didn't.
No, I will not. No.
Oh, come on.
You said Mike.
I said
you're a liar. Lying.
It's just I had picked Mike since like episode 3, and I didn't want to deter.
Look, Maryanne was your female winner pick. Just own it, buddy.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you would have asked me before the finale to throw every cent I own on someone, it would be Maryanne. But
okay, sure.
But fine, I guess.
Who did you think was going to win going in? You thought Maryanne?
Maryanne, yeah. I said Maryanne ever since the Omer episode, which I feel like I just hopped on the bandwagon. I was just like, yeah, of course, Maryanne.
It was hard not to.
It was hard not to hop on that bandwagon. I think Maryanne's edit was one of my favorite like edits of a winner I've ever seen, just because it was so raw and so her. Because like she had highs, she had lows. I feel like too often like winners are boring. Like
they're very
sometimes.
perfect. They got like a very perfect depiction.
And like a great season doesn't need like this almighty powerful winner like had power the whole time. Like you can have seasons that are great and a great winner, but that winner has highs and lows. Just like I think Natalie's a good example from San Juan del Sur.
Yeah. I loved her edit. I loved her depiction. Right away, she stood out to me from the premiere episode. I put her as one of the true contenders just because I'm like, if we're getting a left field winner that's like very character driven, they showed her in a way. If you rewatch the premiere episode, when she goes to the Shipwell Island thing, she gets that backstory montage. I'm like, that was really well done. Like that's way better than like any of the others we got. Like, I remember like they did like Jonathan's, which was just like such a throwaway, but they did it. I know Xander had one last season. It was just most of them weren't very good. I was like, Maryanne's was very interesting, and she talked about winning, but it was very unique in that she was like, I'm going to be myself, and like knowing she's the winner, they're showing that in a different light. It's like, I'm gonna be myself, win, but she's like, it's not even really about the money in a way, although that's important. I'm like, okay, this could be her growing throughout the season as like a fan favorite who comes up short, but maybe not. Maybe we're going to get this really interesting character winner who is very like bursting at the seams with personality, and they're not like being hidden because they're this perfect game player who makes the best move at every episode. That's not necessarily the case. And to be fair, if you rewatch, like other than the pre-merge where she kind of was on the bottom, she was shown to be rubbing some people the wrong way. She couldn't vote. I think for sure she gets voted out if Taku goes back to tribal council. So yeah, we'll consider those when you look at her whole game. But once the merge hits, like she doesn't really do anything wrong. She's just under the radar, and she's working with the power players. And we've had a lot of previous winners do the same thing. And they're very well regarded. So I'm like, I'll be curious to hear more about her game as the interviews come out postseason, and hopefully she does like a deep dive or something. That's the one thing I really wish Erica
I'd
had
be
done.
surprised. I'd be surprised if Maryanne doesn't do a couple.
I think she will, and I'm looking forward to it. I really am interested to hear, because she was mostly like every episode we heard from her, but it was more of a like she's just sort of underneath the radar. She's there, but she's giving us more of like a character moment, like her toenails falling off or something random.
Right.
And I'm like, and then you see like Omer is like making moves, or Dre is making moves, or High or something. That's where the strategy, or Mike is doing something.
Right.
So I'll be curious. I was curious to ask you guys this right now on the heels of the season.
Yeah.
Who do you think is a better game player if you had to rank between Erica and Maryanne? At the new age Survivor, modern Survivor, we have 2 winners now. If you had to put one over the other, because I can tell you I have my current thoughts, but I'm just wondering if you guys
I will
have
say
any
Maryanne.
is above Erica.
Yep.
Okay. And these can change. This isn't set in stone. I've changed my winner rankings a ton of times.
Right. That's tough. That's a great question. I feel like my initial thought is like I feel like Erica fits the mold of like a traditional winner the best. Like I feel like Erica would have done just as good in like a old school like pre Palau season. But if we're talking about like if they would play next season or 44 instead of this, I maybe would have to agree with Gideon and say Maryanne. Like, and what Survivor has sort of evolved to over the last season or two, I feel like Maryanne is maybe more adept, especially because of how well she like had this just ingenious like awareness of her. Like if you would rank. This would be a weird ranking, but who was most aware of their game? I feel like Maryanne just like, especially compared to Mike at the end. You know, she did a big move in getting Omer out, but like waited so long to do it and did it just at the right time. Whereas I feel like every winner, at least the way they edit it, they give them like that at least one move. And I feel like, especially in New School Survivor, everyone's aware of that. Like, oh, I need that move. I need that defining moment. I need that thing that people are gonna be like, that's when I won the game. And I feel like Maryanne was so patient, and I think patience is like more valuable now than it's ever been in Survivor, even though it was only 26 days. But
and I'll add to that. I feel like Erica's like thing, like her moves was like, I was always aware where the vote was going. I never voted the wrong way. Blah 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 blah. Like all this. Guess what? Maryanne never voted the wrong way. I'm looking at her voting record right now. It's not wrong. I mean, she never voted for anybody that didn't go home. So she did the exact same thing.
She voted for Romeo.
Oh, Romeo at 8. Romeo at 8. Romeo at 8. Okay, one time. Anyways, I think it evens out with her doing the move on Omer and then making the right decision on Lindsay. Yeah, actually, she had the same amount of right votes as Erica because of that extra vote. So, in your face. And just the way of playing advantages. And I've never seen people applaud somebody not making a move, but that was a move. So,
no, I think it's I think that's actually a really important thing to talk about is like, it's the lack. I think it's a big sign for like the new era of the show where, honestly, the biggest move Erica made, obviously getting Omer out was huge. I think not playing the idol at 5 was how she won the game, because if she saves Lindsay, I think Lindsay wins the game most likely. She is now the Ricard. She is likely going to win the fire. She could win the fire. She thinks she could win the fire. I could see her winning the fire, or she wins the challenge outright. I wouldn't be surprised. She was the front runner from what I've seen, from what I've heard. She was going to beat all of them. She was the player that had to get beaten. And Maryanne wanted to keep her idol. Wanted to use her idol on Lindsay as a big move, and she said, "Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe the road less taken is the right way to go." And usually that's not the way people play, because it's not great for your resume and it doesn't look good in front of the jury. But to not make a move is a move too. And that's been talked about. Like I would if you haven't seen Australian Survivor, watch the first season's final tribal. The winner of that season makes like no moves and then gets to the end and is like, not making a move is a move. And it's actually something that is like very difficult to do because you're given these very juicy options to take this person out or do that. And it's like, but then you're going to either keep people in the game like Lindsay who can beat you, or like make your threat level much higher and you're more likely to get the hammer. And now all of a sudden you're not getting taken to the final 3. So there's a lot to like not making moves and the psychology around that. Keeping your idol, holding your idol is a move, and it's a good one. I think Maryanne had such an excellent end game from Omer onward. She didn't really need to do. I mean, she woke up at 6. She talks about it. There's a lot of stuff that happened, like the idol nullifier. You guys heard about that?
Yeah.
The idol nullifier, like that was crazy that they didn't even have that in this season, because it dictated a lot of like the final 6 onward, the Omer boot. But anyway, I just was like, the interesting is I would at the moment, until I get to dig more into Maryanne's game, I actually think I'm thinking really highly of Erica's game. So at the moment I might have Erica higher as a winner, but I'm curious to see what comes up in the following weeks with Maryanne, and where I would place her. So
I know you had done the one video on your channel that was like the greatest tribal council performances.
Yeah, right. And so like, is Maryanne up there?
It's up there, not number 1, but up there.
And Christy was your number 1, right?
She was number 1. Yeah. Speaking of Australian Survivor, I mean, if I don't include Australian Survivor, I think I had Todd at number 1. Todd's is really, really good. And he also has a similar situation where he wins jury votes, which gives him the win. Otherwise it might've been a tie or he loses. Which is crazy. Given like he's up against Courtney, who like didn't even care to be there, and Amanda Kimmel, so. Yeah. But
do you think you'd put, if you would update that video, do you think you'd put Maryanne or even
honestly,
Eric?
I haven't rewatched it, so I don't remember. Like I was so caught up in the moment of like Mike throwing and Mike giving I was just like,
what is Mike doing? You gotta put that in the worst.
I was getting like just like, because I did talk about this less than a year ago, and I remember watching all the tribals and being like, they're trying to figure out exactly what makes a bad final tribal. And I was watching Mike and I'm like, oh my God, he's doing it. Like he's breaking the top 5. Oh, I feel so bad because he seems like such a nice guy and I really like him. But I'm like, this is a really bad performance that I almost kind of didn't realize. And I thought like at this point, it's Maryanne, like she's going to win. I already felt like she was the winner. So I was like, how? Oh, this is how, partially Mike throwing the game. So I would have to rewatch Maryanne's performance to decide if it's like top 5 or anything. But she did a great job. Absolutely, there's something to be said too about like final 6, final 5. She got taken at the final 4, didn't have to win immunity, didn't have to make fire, and she crushed the final tribal. Great stuff. Take notes.
Well, so I when we were watching the episode, Gideon, I knew I originally wanted to ask you guys, like, was Maryanne not playing the idol a good move? And I think with her winning the game, obviously that kind of answers itself. But I guess like a better question is like, if she would have, because she didn't get any votes, right? So she would have played it for herself. Is there any way she still could have won? Do you think? But like before Mike, if she had played for herself before Mike played his for her.
If she had played the idol on herself,
because I feel like that won her more respect from the jury than the Omer votes.
By not having played the idol and then popping it out and saying, hey, look at this. Yeah. I think that she probably never would have played it because she was waiting to see what Mike was going to do. Maybe if Mike didn't play it on her. Yeah. You thinking maybe she plays it on herself at that point just to be safe?
I think she still wins. I mean, because then she played an idol for herself, and that's like nobody knew about it. She kept it a secret, which is very much appreciated.
I will say there's something to like not playing an idol on yourself when you don't have to. On some hand, it's like you might as well, right? Because if you get voted out, you're gonna look like an idiot. But on the other hand, having that ability to like show how the magic trick is done at the end is like blows people's minds. So like, oh my God, that's how you did it. And it's like, yeah, I got an idol played on me and I had an idol in my pocket that I didn't have to play. So I do wonder, like, if Mike hadn't played the idol on her, I don't know. I would say still hold it, knowing you're probably okay. Like, you're not going. Lindsay's clearly got to go.
Oof, y'all are more ballsy than me. I could not.
You would 100% play it as Final Five. I mean, it's like James.
Yes.
Like, why wouldn't you? You know?
Yeah. Why not?
You've seen this. Yeah.
I wonder.
It's
Do you
tough.
think anyone ever questions if the idol was fake? Because she would have had she proved it by showing the note. That was kind of the thing. But wouldn't she have had the note from the idol that she, like that everyone knew she had? Couldn't she have just made a?
That's 5D chess right there.
That's pretty
that
crazy.
You had an idol. Lying that you had an idol at the end. I mean, I've thought about it before. I'm not gonna lie, it hasn't crossed my mind. Like, what if somebody was like, I had all these advantages, y'all just didn't know about them. Jeff, please don't verify it.
Well, didn't Dean do that in Island of the Idols somewhat? Like, he came out and he was like, I had this, I had that, I had this. And then Tommy was like, yes, so what though? Like, who cares? Like, nobody cares, dude. Like, yeah, you had all this stuff, but no, you didn't do anything with it. So it's like, I wonder. I've always wondered, like, is it a good thing to have a bunch of advantages and never play them? Because then even if you're in the final three, what are you going to say? Like, you know, I didn't make a move. And that's like, you know, not making a move can be a good thing, but maybe the move is like, it's just tough because you look at like Natalie Anderson, I think, and people compare Natalie's move at the final five with playing her idol on Baylor or on Jacqueline to get Baylor out. And you're like, wow, that was such a crazy moment. And it really like defined the end of the season. And it's one of the ballsiest idol plays you've ever seen. And it was such a badass. And you're like, to be fair, Maryanne could have done that. She could have taken her idol out and been like, you know, Lindsay, did you vote for who I told you to vote for? And then been like, yeah, okay, boom, Jonathan, adios. But knowing Lindsay's the front runner, Jacqueline isn't the front runner. It's not the same situation.
And then Lindsay can twist that and be like, I had somebody play an idol for me. I'm such a good social game. And like, now Maryanne looks like the idiot.
Would believe it. I mean, they probably would have believed it somewhat.
Right.
Whereas I don't think that was at all the case with Jacqueline. So
no, I feel like the way Maryanne did it is the only successful way that you could do that. Because like I feel like if you juxtapose that with Dean, it was just like, yeah, you had all this stuff, but you did nothing with it. So is it really worth anything? Where Maryanne, it was the fact, it was a lot of things, but mainly it was that her social game was so well that she made Mike, who at that point was sort of like having like the best social game, but even he didn't realize it and gave up his idol to her. So I feel like the fact that Mike gave her his idol was a huge part of it. She's like, yeah, I had an idol, but I didn't even need to play it because my social game was so strong that I outsmarted the person who you all thought was playing the best social game.
How do you guys feel about the final tribal format still with the newer? I know it's slightly newer. It's 5 years now, but
I still miss.
I missed the one-on-one. Yeah, I missed the individual questions. But that being said, I thought this jury was pleasant, and you know, I thought it was good to see.
Yeah, I thought it was a good jury. I also don't like how it's like, okay, we're gonna do social, strategic, and physical. Although I did think it was funny that Jeff was like, I know they overlap, but let's just go with it. Because like every season they'll start talking about social, and then like it'll just become something completely not what we consider social. And like for this time when they went to the physical part, I think it was only 2 questions were asked, and one was
kind of weird.
Yeah, and they were about like what you were like.
What were you like at camp?
Yeah.
I weaved palm fronds. I was like, this is so weird. Like,
that was funny.
I thought it was amusing. I enjoyed that just because I'm like, this is bizarre. You're like, for $1 million, I weave palm fronds. Like,
it allowed Maryanne to have a little anecdote about being in Kenya.
That's true. I thought that was a good answer. She did a great job of somehow turning it like lemons and lemonade. Like,
right.
What are you really going to talk about? Like,
she's a true salesman. You gotta have that, you know, childhood connection to people.
Yeah, I was in Boy Scouts. I guess you could compare it to that or something. I screamed. I saw Daddy Longlegs and I freaked out, and I overcame that day 26.
Right.
Guys, I've never been camping before. Really, Romeo? We had no idea. Wow.
I learned how to swim to come out here.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually pretty. Yeah, not a lot of people. I was surprised to. Do you guys know how to swim?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Some people I was like, oh, you don't know how to swim. Interesting.
I know. It's like I feel like it's something we just take for granted. Like, well,
I take it for
everybody knows
granted.
how to
I
swim.
totally
I'm
did
like,
up until like
everybody knows how to swim, and then like I'm in college and like I'm like talking about going to the beach with my friends, and I'm like, oh, like they're like, yeah, but don't go too deep in the water. I can't swim. And I'm like, oh, there are people like can't swim.
Oh.
I didn't know that.
Interesting.
yeah.
Well, so I know the finale just happened yesterday, but like initial reactions
To the whole seasons.
If you could tier Maryanne as a winner and tier Survivor 42 as a season, what do you think?
Gosh,
Rank it as a
gosh.
season. Okay, so let's go down the line. Okay, number 1, Redemption Island. Probably not
Right.
as good as Redemption.
Number
Island.
2, Gabon.
Oh boy.
Yeah, no, but Gabon. Yeah, it's not. It's second worst season.
Yeah.
No.
I'm gonna.
Sorry, Redemption Island's number 1, right? The best
Yeah.
season. Gabon's second best.
Right. Yeah. If you're talking this guy, then
Gideon,
yes,
you love
but-
Gabon, right?
I love Gabon. So
I love
much.
Gabon too. I actually really like it. I don't know if it's in
Gideon's
my
got
top
a
10.
he's got a
but-
Gabon buff.
I feel
Yeah,
like
the
yes,
Gabon
dude. My Gabon buff, it's right there. I spent $200 on it. It's worth it.
Do you like Coda or Fong more? Or do you just it's all gravy? Do you care?
It's all great. I mean, Coda
all
was
gravy.
entertaining.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would have
I'll-
42 in the upper half at least. Like of the 42 seasons, you've got like the middle is in the. I'd say it's. I don't know if it's in my top 10 at the moment. It's so soon.
I think it's yeah.
Like I had 41 when I ranked it last year. In my review, it was a week after the season wrapped up. But I had it like in my. I wasn't as down on it as it seems like most people were. I had it in my like 20 something, like low 20s maybe out of 41 seasons.
That's right. That's right. I think. Like
Some
20,
people
Yeah.
I know like Phil had it like bottom 5 or whatever, and I know a lot of people have it really.
Phil
low.
really
I think
didn't
Phil
like
had it.
41.
I think Phil had. I don't want to speak for him. I think he had it like Thailand, Nicaragua, 41.
See, I don't agree with that at
Ooh.
all. I feel like that's so.
It wasn't that bad.
I don't think it was that bad at all. I'm like, there's a lot of interesting stuff that comes out of 41.
You're telling me Island of the Idols was better than 41? You're tripping.
There's some just very, very boring seasons of Survivor that are predictable and have very little going for them. There's not much interesting conversations. I'm like, there's no drama. Like, yeah, I'm like 41 suffered from its edit. I think the edit is the biggest problem for me. Like, it just doesn't do a great job with a lot of the characters that make it far into the season. It really could have done a better job. It like front loaded a lot of it. So
I do think 41
Absolutely.
also suffers from like some of their like potential fan favorite people just went home early, and some of the more like I don't want to say basic people, but some of the less exciting like characters made it.
Well, I think they just
far.
didn't do a good job of showing off the end game at all. Like, how are you gonna like purple Heather and Erica and Deshaun is like it's unfortunate because of Luvu was like the end game of the season, but they didn't really go to tribal for like 7 episodes or something for like 6 episodes. So it's like, but they've had that happen before, like Tandang. They didn't go to tribal, and they were probably the most interesting tribe of the season in the Philippines. But I would say like 42 for me is in the teens at the moment somewhere. I'd have to like rewatch it and stuff.
It's
and give it
just
some time.
outside of the top 10 for me because Drew asked us like right after the winner got announced, and I was like, oh, well, if you're gonna make me think about it, because he was like, it's top 10, it's a top 10 season.
Top 10.
I was like, I'm not sure about that, but I think it's close. Like,
I think it's pretty
it was
good.
a great season, and I always said like if the finale absolutely kills, I think it'll be top 10. I don't think the finale killed. I think it was a solid finale, but I don't think it killed.
Yeah, I think it's I think overall, like, it's a very strong cast. I think there was a lot of like going over it. There's a lot of really funny moments that happened throughout the season or like low-key funny moments. Drew's crying so bad. I think I think it's better than 41. I think most people would agree with me on that one, but ultimately, I don't know if it's a top 10. There's just like I have such ingrained feelings with so many seasons of Survivor that I really love that I'm
Yeah.
like, it just finished. It's hard for me to
Right.
crack that with 40 seasons now. It's like if this was like season 20, I'd be like, absolutely, like probably top 5 even. But
Right.
yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff that I've gone over and I love it. I love so many of the moments. I can recount them from these seasons. So 42, give it some time. Give it some time in the
Yeah.
oven. We'll see how it comes out. But initially, pretty high.
Yeah, I think at the moment, if I'd have gone in my head and had to pick now, I'd probably give it like 14 or 15 all time season. So if
I
you're talking
honestly
just
feel like
newbie seasons, it's definitely top 10.
I feel like it's like the problems I have with the season aren't anything to do with the players or anything like that or how the game shook out. It's more to do with like I just wish some of these twists didn't exist. Like I really didn't need the
right,
hourglass. I don't need do or die. I don't think it added. I actually think it could have been really damaging with Lindsay going out there because it made that tribal so interesting with like all the different moving parts in play. The fact that they hid the unalloyed fire was kind of a weird call.
right.
So for me, it's almost like I'm fine with Shipwell Island. Shot in the dark, it's fine. I don't love it. I think it's okay. I'm not like if they didn't bring it back, I wouldn't shed any tears like Drew. So, but yeah, for me, 42, like 42 on paper could be I could see people having an argument for why it's like a top 10 or top 5 season. But for me, there's a few things that hold it back from, and I feel like that might be modern Survivor, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And Maryanne, her game, Maryanne's game.
Oh, you're making me rank
that's
that?
That's hard. That's hard.
That's
to do.
harder.
That requires me to like. So like I'm gonna just say like in the coming weeks I'm still talking Survivor, and I decided to go really big for this video. And it's a 2-part video because it's so big. I wrote over 10,000 words, and normally the average video I write, it's like a 15-minute video. It's about 2,500 words on a script. Wow. So this is 10,000. So I'm like, this could be a whole month worth of content if I want it to be. But I'm going into talking about underrated winners, people that don't get enough credit. And I'm like, Maryanne's probably going to fit that bill, but I probably can't include her because it's just so recent that I don't know where she's rated in the first place.
Right.
So like,
I think Maryanne's a B or a C tier winner. I mean, I think she's in one of those. If you're asking me.
I would honestly say similar. Like I loved her end game. Her early game, I didn't think was all that great.
Her early game was a little shaky.
I think she would admit the same thing. I think she even said the same thing in her post-season interviews. She's already said like she said she was a bit delusional at the beginning, which was honest and amusing. And then she kind of falls out of the majority. She could have easily gone at some point, but she doesn't, which is good. I think it's great to hang on and be able to do that. I don't know where I'd put her though. I'm like, I think I'd have her above the bottom 10, but I don't know where I'd put her overall of all 42 winning games.
Yeah.
That's
true. I think I might have her higher than you guys. I'm thinking more like B, like leaning towards A tier.
Higher.
But where would you rank her if you had to put like 1 to 42?
1 to 42.
Games? If you had an idea, like a vague estimation.
Maybe like slightly above, like half.
Yeah. Okay.
I was gonna say more than half because I was like, oh, I'd probably put it around the same as the seasons, but then I was like, oh, there's some crappy seasons with really good winners. So, I was like,
but as far as like favorite winners though, like people I was like happiest to see win, she's as far especially with newbie seasons, like she might be top 5. Like
I was gonna say for a winning game as a person and as a character on the show, she's probably top. I haven't sat down and looked at the list, but she's probably top 10. For me at least. I think she's one of the most unique winners we'll probably ever see in the history of the show, forever long it goes on. You'll never see anyone like Maryanne and winning Survivor often. Like she's such a character. She was clearly cast more for her character, and the fact that she won is incredible. And she did it really well. Like she did it better than I think many people would have expected, certainly after the first few episodes.
She
Right.
kind of made it look easy, which is why I think people I think people are gonna underrate her because I think people are gonna be like,
Yeah.
well, golly, she's just walking in the woods and she finds an idol, or like, are you kidding me? Like the idol's just on the tree and
I
it's
mean,
just there.
Lindsay
I
was
mean,
literally right there. You can't
I
argue with
know.
the footage. It's
I know
literally
you
in the
can't
same frame.
argue. Yep.
This isn't like they did tricky editing and it was like Lindsay was 20 feet away. She was literally right next to it. It's in the same shot.
And we
So-
we never saw like any level of negotiation that she might have had to do to get Romeo's vote there for her big move. Like she uses her extra vote. It all just seemed like it all fell into place there at the end for her. And I think that's going to cause people to underrate her because they aren't going to think about what was probably going on with her strategy behind the scenes.
I feel like Maryanne will either be a winner in the long term who's going to be either accurately rated or underrated. I don't think she'll ever be overrated. I don't feel like that's possible. I don't think it's gonna be possible with what she was shown on the season. I feel like I'm really curious to see these post game interviews and like what was she really doing, if anything, from like the merge to like Omer's boot. Because we know what she was doing from Omer to the end, but what was she really doing at the bottom? And like, did she do anything? Was she just like relying on the power players to keep her?
Yeah.
You know, that's a strategy. She came in somewhat on the bottom anyway. But we'll
her
see.
and Romeo were just forced on the bottom at the start because they had this alpha alliance.
Yeah, I'm like, what happened? Like, why were they at
like,
the bottom
how?
exactly?
How did this happen? Why? Are
I don't.
y'all-
That's the thing I didn't get at the merge. I was like, why exactly is Romeo?
You
at the
saw
bottom?
Tony do it in season 40, and you're just like, we should do that too. I don't know. Like,
Yeah. Last question I'm going to ask you guys is, I think this is going to be one of those seasons where we get like Kageon and get like a pretty decent amount of the cast return. And there was a lot of fan favorites from the season, like not only characters but like just good players that maybe fell a little short, like Hai and Drea. If you had to pick like maybe I don't know the three most likely to return, who would you say? You can, including Maryanne if you want.
Okay, Zach, Mariah, and Jackson. No, I'm kidding.
Nice.
I don't
That's
think
the
it's
weird-
I don't. But Zach, I think Zach has a shot.
I mean, maybe
I'd be
for our first
surprised.
boot season.
Come on, Zach, especially if they count social media presence and his like connection with fans. I think he could be considered because he has
Maybe.
done that. And I don't know if you saw
I would be surprised.
I don't know if you saw Maryanne's interview, postseason interview with Rob, but Zach makes an appearance and it was.
Oh, I was
pretty
watching it.
entertaining.
I that's why I got into watching it. I saw a screenshot. I was like, "What is he doing?" And then I'm like,
I know
"Are they dating?" I heard a rumor.
they're
but-
not dating. They're not.
I'm like, I
She
don't think they
said-
are.
She said that a guy slid in her DMs during the season, said, "I heard you like skinny white guys," and they started dating.
Oh my God.
That's what she said.
Sometimes it's all it takes.
She's really winning. Damn.
She got $1 million and a man.
Yeah.
Who's the real winner?
Oh my God.
I'm gonna say I really think I would be shocked. Like Erica was kind of like if she would return. I would be very shocked, especially with just how much passion she has for the game itself. If Maryanne doesn't come back, even if we have to wait all the way for like an all-winner season, she just seems like the type of winner that would return. Like you want to see her against more different types of players.
And
I feel
people
like-
would still underrate her if she came back.
Yeah.
They
feel
would
like-
underestimate her for sure.
Yeah, they would still underestimate her if she came back. Mark my words. If she comes back, she still won't be considered a threat.
I think she could do another deep run if she came back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely see it.
Omer, I think, would be my second. And then if I had to pick one more, I'd probably say, I want to see Mike back, but like part of me thinks that Mike was kind of like, this is my one shot. Don't know if he would come back out.
He waited 21
Yeah.
years. He waited
Don't
21
think-
years for that.
I think he would if he was given the shot. I think he would come back.
I don't think Jonathan is going to come back. I think I think he might be sort of like Heather and Brad were and sort of distance themselves from the show. Just
Seems
for
like
all
he's
the-
trying
I don't
to
know
do
if
that.
Jonathan would want to or not.
I don't
on
think
his
so.
Instagram, he was like, ask me a question not related to Survivor. I don't want to talk about Survivor. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, I
What?
guess
Good
you're
luck, dude.
really, I guess you really don't want to be associated with the show. Wow.
I don't know if the producers even care that like they didn't really. He wasn't given a very good edit. He
No.
was given a visible edit more through like just being shown, but
Yeah.
I didn't get the feeling that they loved him. I mean, Jeff seemed to love him on the island, but yeah, they didn't seem to do him many favors with the with how they portrayed him. I would say I think we're gonna get Omer for sure.
Yeah.
From there, I'm trying to decide like if I'm only picking 3, because I agree with your assessment, Adam. I could see a lot of these people coming back, like a
Yeah.
Kagiyan situation where there's at least 4 to 5, if not more.
Right.
But I would say I could see Mike, Omer, Lindsay. I could see Drea. I think Jeff
Yeah.
is all about this new age survivor. I mean, he's gaga for it. He started like having an what was happening at that final tribal? It was like having an exorcism or something, or at the reunion.
He was turning into the monster.
It
Don't
was
worry.
insane. Like, what the hell is happening to this man? He's just going crazy. He's having an out of body experience. I think he would love Drea with all the advantages, and just she was a big player of the season, probably the biggest elimination other than Omer.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe high, maybe
Yeah.
he had a moment up until he got taken out.
Yeah.
Tori seems really well liked. I've heard nothing but good things about Tori.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know beyond that. Like the further deep you get into the boot order, it starts to become a little more. But if I had to pick 3, I'd probably say like Mike, Omer, Lindsay. And if not Mike,
okay.
then give me Drea. Maybe Lindsay, Omer,
Okay.
Drea.
Interesting.
Yeah, Lindsay, Omer. I would say Maryanne, but I'm like, she won. So I feel like they'd be more keen to bring back like players who didn't win, usually.
Yeah. Right.
If I had to guess, they would pick players who haven't won yet.
Yeah.
I do think Maryanne could easily come back. I could see her returning for a second season just for the hell of it. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know what they would do.
Yeah.
But I would say Lindsay, Omer, Drea. Actually, those would be the 3.
Okay. Yeah, if not Maryanne, I think I'd maybe follow like a higher Drea as well. So
Yeah.
but cool. Yeah. What as we wrap it up, do you have any? I know you said you're doing that long 2-part series, but do you have any other bids coming up, or what's the summer looking like? On your channel?
Mean, I'm weirdly tired, and it's nothing to do with COVID or anything. I'm just last night was a lot, like 3 hours of it's like 3 weeks of Survivor in one moment,
Right.
and it's all new content. It's not like I'm rewatching. I've got Survivor videos coming up for the next 5 weeks. I've got the review video coming up next week, which is gonna be a pain in the butt to put together. The review videos, like for just like if you're curious, they're probably the most annoying videos to make because of copyright. and they're also there's so much to write about. I'm like keep adding to my script. I've got like 4,500 words at the moment, and I'm trying to say less. And I'm like, oh, I didn't talk about this. I didn't talk about that. Like I love the editing they did going into Final Tribal where they brought the jurors up. I thought that was really cool. You guys remember that? I thought that was like the throwback. Like they did that on Gabon.
Cool.
On Gabon, they had that with like before the final 3. They had like Corinne was like, and Randy was like, I don't want any of them to win. I'm like, this is funny. I'm like, thank you. Give me your. I would like to hear your thoughts on the players. I thought it was really well done. So keep adding to the script, but ultimately, yeah, I'm talking about we got underrated winners, more funny, wild stories behind the scenes. Maybe we'll do another hack video 9.0. Who knows? We'll see. And then awesome. Big Brother 24 is coming up at the end of June. So
very cool.
Talking Big Brother at that point.
Very cool. Well, guys, me and Gideon are going to be doing I know this talked about the season, but this was sort of more a recap. We're going to do like a full like season retrospective coming up soon, and then we found. I think all 18 Instagram accounts from the season 43, the Squid Game seasons.
Them all.
So we're gonna do
Unleash the Kraken.
Unleash the Kraken, yeah. So we're gonna scroll through their Instagrams and judge them from their social media presence.
Always gets good views. They like seeing us judge people. I don't know.
Right. So those should be coming up.
Reality TV, people love it.
Right. We also have some post-game interviews coming up from season 42. We're going to try to get as many as we can. We have I think 13 have said yes, but a lot of them do 1 or 2, and then get sick of it. So we'll see. But hopefully we get a couple for you guys. So subscribe so you don't miss out on that. But Peridiam, thanks so much for joining us a couple times this season. Always great having you on, dissecting the episodes, and you're always welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And everyone have a dandy Thursday.